there's currently construction going on in front of my house, so if it's noisy, I'm sorry, but I can't do anything about that. Anyways, today's video, I'm going to be talking about something that's a little bit controversial. I'm going to be talking about books that I dislike and books that I guess are popular that I don't exactly agree with. That doesn't mean like I hate this book or whatever. I think certain books don't really cater towards my taste. And I don't really have a lot of books on this list. It's literally only 4 books. So that's cool. Like I said, I don't really dislike a lot of books. I feel like most books, I just enjoy them, but I don't exactly love them, if that makes sense. The first book on my list though is Archer's Voice. And this book actually may be a book that I very much dislike. I read this during my romance reads vlog where I read books that were somewhat out of my comfort zone, and I picked this book because I knew I wasn't gonna like it and I forced myself to read it, which was kind of a mistake. But my issue with Archer's Voice is just like the whole setup of the romance was just really weird to me. It's basically about these 2 main characters that suffer from PTSD because things happen in their past, and the main character moves to a new town where she meets the male lead, and the male lead doesn't talk, and he's kind of shunned by the town because everyone thinks he's crazy or something like that. But my main issue with this book is that obviously it talks about trauma, but I don't think it really processes it well, and there's no healing. They basically just get together and then the whole entire book just becomes a thing surrounding their romance, and the romance is not really good because 80% of the book is just them sleeping with each other, and there was no like real, I guess, emotional development. The whole thing felt very physical in my opinion, and I think it was like a little bit weird as well because I felt like Archer, he didn't have a lot of social interaction with other people. So in my opinion, I felt like the main character, I felt like she was taking advantage of him because he had no experience, and literally she was the first woman he ever met and he fell in love with her. So I don't know, something about that was icky. The ending was also not, it was not satisfying. It was kind of just there, and even the writing, it always annoys me when the male character is always described as like very hot and attractive and she describes his muscles, and something in this book is just really weird as well because they always wink and smile at each other, which I don't really understand. Why do you keep winking and smiling? Like all the characters, side characters as well. It's not just the main character. And there was just things in this book that were kind of icky to me, which is why I didn't exactly enjoy it, and I knew I should have DNF'd it, but I read it for the video and it was honestly really hard and I don't know why I did it. The next book is Magnolia Park, which I'm not exactly sure if this is like a popular book talk book, but I've heard of booktubers reading this book, which is why I was interested in reading it. But I think that this book was just personally wasn't for me because it's about toxic relationships and cheating, which is something that I don't really like, and I feel like the whole story was so stupid. Like, it was interesting, I liked the writing and the idea of like rich kids that is like found family because they went to like a boarding school together and they only had each other because their parents kind of, I guess, pushed them away. But something about Magnolia Park was just, it wasn't disturbing, but it was just not a book for me because basically a lot of it was a cycle of like cheating and toxic relationships and them blaming each other for sleeping with other people and stuff like that. And I didn't end up finishing this book, but I read the ending, and the ending was just like, seriously, if I read this whole book, that would have just been the ending, and it was honestly so disappointing. Like, it made me so angry because it was so stupid, and I feel like the characters themselves, some of them were insufferable. For example, BJ, just his actions, I can't with this book. So yeah, personally it was just not a book for me, but it was an interesting book. Like, I really liked the writing and just like the whole premise of it. I just would have liked it better if it didn't have the toxic relationship, because if you think about it, it would have been cute if it was like a healthy like found family thing, but because it just had so much toxicity inside it, that was what I had a problem with. Then we have The Toll, which is the last book in the Arc of Sight series. I remember I made like a book talk video on this, and I was like, oh, I should have DNF'd the book, but at that point it was too late because I was 83% into it, and I was like, oh, I didn't care about the characters or the story, and it was so boring. And then people in the comment were like, really? Because I loved this book, and I was like, it wasn't a bad book, but I think considering the fact that I read the first two books and I really loved the first two books, the third book was kind of a letdown for me. Like I mentioned, there was a bunch of point of views from different characters, side characters that I personally didn't really care about, and the main characters from the first two books, I felt like they didn't have a lot of opportunity to shine. And I don't even remember what the ending was, but I just remember that this whole book was boring. I do think that it was very interesting though, because it had a lot of, I would say, like political ideas and a lot of things that related to the real world. And I don't know if this is like sci-fi dystopian kind of book, but books like this always interest me because I love it when they kind of predict the future and you're kind of like, please, all these books and movies talk about these things, can we not go down that path in like the reality? So I do really like the premise of the book. I love the second book, especially just like the way that it ended and how fast I read the book. It was so good, but then the last book was kind of a letdown for me, and I think that's like the most disappointing part when you really love a series and it just doesn't meet your expectations. And then the next book is not really a book that I hate. I think it was just super hyped to the point where I didn't feel the same way, and that is Fourth Wing. I actually think Fourth Wing is a pretty good book. It's maybe what I would consider a romantasy, and I like the ideas of dragon. It was very like fast paced-ish, and it was very easy to read, but I think my main issue with it was actually the romance. I personally love when like the main female characters are like super strong and are like the most powerful being in the world. Like something about that, I just eat it up. But the romance was like the thing that kind of pissed me off, because I love a good romance, but the romance in this book did not hit right. And my main problem with it is because it's supposed to be like maybe a forbidden romance, enemies to lovers kind of thing, but I really hate it when the main characters are like instantly attracted to the guy, and also the relationship just moved super quickly. I was kind of not expecting it. I just wanted more tension, more angst, especially because they are technically not allowed to be together, and it's just like it moved too quickly. But also I know a lot of people like the male lead, 𝐤𝐮, and to be honest, I didn't really care about him. So not exactly my favorite in terms of romance, but it wasn't a bad book. I actually really enjoy it. And I'm gonna add another book to the list that I just thought about. This is not like a book that I hate, okay? Like I actually really like this series, but I think I have some issues with it just because of my reaction to it, and that is Zodiac Academy. I actually really enjoy Zodiac Academy. The first book kind of left me confused, but I think the way that this book is set up, it's very clear that it's like a bully romance, and it says that in the description of the book. So in reality, like I should have expected that because that's what the book was made for specifically, but I don't know, something about that was just like still super weird for me. But I don't know, something about this series is just super addictive because it's so like good that it's so bad. And I think the reason why it's so bad is just like the cycle of bullying and the fact that it mainly focuses on the character, and the plot overall is really slow, but the plot I think was also the most interesting part about it. And although I really like the characters, they gave me whiplash every single moment because they kept changing their personalities dependent on who they were with. And I did really enjoy the romance in this book-ish, but yeah, I don't know, something about this series I kind of have like a love-hate relationship with. And I have a video of me reading Zodiac Academy, and I swear after I was like, I'm not gonna read any more of this series until later on because I think right now it's making my brain fuzzy. I literally had dreams about it. Like I had dreams about Lance and Darcy. I swear, in my head I kept thinking about them. I had dreams about them. So I do understand why people really like the series, because I think it's very addictive and there's something about it that like makes you want to read it. And I don't know, it's really good. I had issues with it at the same time. That's basically all the books that I'm going to be talking about in this video. I'll just be clear, this is like my own opinion, okay? Obviously opinions are subjective. Personally, half of these books were just not my type, and some of the books I did actually enjoy, but there were just things that kind of let me down, or certain points that I didn't exactly like. So in reality, some of the books I strongly disliked, and some of them I just have a love-hate relationship with. But overall, it's not like I completely dislike these books. But that's basically it for today's video. I haven't done like a sitting down talking video in a while. At least that's what it feels like to me. I'm pretty sure I did one like 3 weeks ago. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in another video. Bye!